Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you something that I've always wanted to adapt to card making in sort of a smaller format, and that is paint pouring. Something that people typically think of as needing a lot of room for and being pretty messy. So I'm going to tame that a little bit today using these fun pre-drilled wood slices from ARTEZA. This is a paint pour that I did on canvas, sort of in a traditional way. This was using a pre-mixed pouring paint that you didn't have to add anything to. And while this is a pretty small canvas, it's still something that's not doable in my craft room. I was at a class, and so that made it a lot easier because I had room to do this project and I didn't have anything to clean up. But if I just want to work in a card making format, I need a little smaller format. Now, ARTEZA makes pre-mixed pouring paints. You will need to remove this little piece of cardboard from the top of the cap. Otherwise, when you go to squeeze it out of the bottle, it's going to come out around the neck because the spout will be blocked. So be sure and look for that in the lid and take it out before you start using these paints. Now, I love the pre-mixed paints because it just is one less step and one less thing to store in your studio. So I thought I would try them first just on the raw wood and see how that ended up looking. So I put some paint on there and then just did what you would do in a pour, sort of let it run around with gravity and make some fun patterns. It really behaves really differently from acrylic paint, the way that it creates little patterns. I helped it along with a little bit of water, misted water, because I didn't put enough paint on here in the beginning. So if you add a little bit of paint later on, then you can get those portions to move and mix and create those fun marbled patterns that you think of when you think of paint pouring. So just experiment. You can also coat the wood slice with a little bit of water to help the paints move. And here I added a little bit more paint to make it move a little bit faster this second time. Another thing that I did with these wood slices was I coated them with gel medium, and then I added some watercolor mediums to them. And coating it with gel medium does make it slicker, but you can see how the pre-mixed pouring paint is starting to create those fun patterns that pouring paint does. So I tried using the pouring paints on my gel press just to pull a print, just to see if I could grab any of that fun marbled pattern that pouring paints make. But what happened is I just got these dendritic effects that you see here. So just the act of pressing the paper into the fun patterns of the pouring paint sort of obscured the patterns. These are still fun, but it's not exactly what I was envisioning with using the gel press and the pouring plate. So I came up with another idea. Now I have my smallest gel press plate here, and I'm spraying it with a little bit of water and then adding some of the paints. And now you'll really see what you think of as the classic paint pour with that great marbling and the colors making these fun patterns. And this is what I got when I pulled those other prints. The problem is, when the paint was wet and I went to go pull the print, I lost all of this fabulous pouring detail that I'm getting here. So I had a different idea for this one. I thought once I got it the way I wanted it, I would just leave it and let it dry. So I set it down into a puddle of the pouring paint as well on my craft mat, because I'll also get paint on that side. So this is the first time I've ever been able to get two gel prints from one single application of paint. So it's going to be fun to see what those look like. In the meantime, I will add some more to these wood slices. This one is so bright and marbled and fun. I love the way that looks. Now, because this is natural wood, over time, while this paint looks very three-dimensional here and a very smooth surface, the paint will actually sink into the grain of the wood just a little bit, and it's beautiful in the end. You can see that in my photographs at the beginning and the end of this video. But these are so easy to decorate like this. They'd make great little Christmas ornaments, and it's so much fun to work in this tiny format rather than with a large canvas. Now in this one, you can see there are metallics in this pouring paint. I found that on the canvas that I did, the metallic pouring paints really made it beautiful and sparkly and fun, like this little wood slice here. I love that dark blue too, it's gorgeous. But if you mix in those metallic colors with the standard colors, you can really get some fun things happening there. Now here you can see it's starting to dry, and you can see the grain of the wood. That's what I was talking about. It gives you a completely different texture when it's dry, and it'll sink down into there even more. That's the real fun of using a wood slice. So here's the one that's still super slick and raised up. That will sink in also, and you'll be able to see that texture. Here's the metallic one. I love that sparkle and shine mixed with the other colors. It is so much fun. And then the little holes will pop out too, but see here how you can see the grain? So fun. Okay, so my gel press paint has dried, and I'm actually using the back first. That's the one that I set down into the puddle of paint on my craft mats. There's not quite as much paint on this side, but I wanted to save the more dramatic one for last. So I have some clear, silent packing tape. I love this silent packing tape. It's the best. And I'm just making sure that it's really adhered to the paint so I get a clean pull off the gel press. You really can't spend too much time doing this if you want a good pull. I do have to use 2 pieces of tape here, so there might be a little weirdness at the edges, but just make sure that you get a good tight seal at the edge and that it starts to lift that paint. So I'll pull half of that off. It's a very ethereal, wispy pattern on this side just because the paint was so much thinner. So I'll put that on a piece of white cardstock so you can see it. I love the neon paints in the ARTEZA pouring paints. I love neon all the things, if I'm being honest. But the neon ones make for really fun patterns. So I'm putting these down sticky side up so that I can add some Nouveau gilding flakes to what is going to be the back of this fun little hold print. These are great because they're really light. You get a lot of use out of just a single flake because you can sort of push them around like I'm doing here. And remember, this is the back, so the paint will be on top of that gold. Wherever there's paint, you won't see the gold. And wherever there's not paint, you will see the gold. It's a very fun technique. Now here's the really dramatic one. So this is the other side, the one that I poured directly on. And I'm just moving my tape to get the most dramatic part of this pattern onto my packing tape. This is such a simple technique, and you can do this with any paint. It doesn't have to be pouring paint. So it will work with whatever you want. If you have a pattern that you'd like to preserve on top of your gel press, this is a great way to lift that up. I like to leave a little bit of white space because I do like this technique of adding gold, but you can make it completely solid and you'll still see the pattern. And look how different the pattern on the back looks from the pattern that you see with the pouring paint on top. So you don't have that marbling. On the back, it's smoother where it was touching the gel press, but you'll see more of the marbling when I turn this over. Now, when you go to attach a piece of packing tape like this, the paint is pulled up on the sticky side of the tape. So wherever there's paint and wherever there's gilding flakes, it's not going to be sticky anymore. So you'll need to adhere it to your cardstock with an adhesive. I like to use gel medium. It's clear, it dries fast, and it's a great sort of collage medium. So that's what I chose, but you could do any kind of glue. You could even do more double-sided tape if you'd like to stick this down. So I've added gold flakes into the open portions, and now you can see the fun pouring texture on the front side of that tape. So I'll put this on cardstock. I have a little bit of the tape exposed just to stick it down long enough for me to trim it at the edges. Look how pretty that is. That marbling is so perfect. And that is the card format of an acrylic paint pour. It's so much fun and so easy and not messy at all. You don't have to have anything for all that paint to drip off onto, nothing. Now this one has lots of open tape areas, so this one will actually stick very well to a piece of cardstock. And again, it has sort of that ethereal look from the lighter application of paint than the one that was from the more solid paint pour. Now I'll be cutting these down into strips, and I'm just using the packing tape to pick up the extra gilding flakes from my craft mat. And I will go ahead and clean these last few little strips off of my gel press so that I can use those as well. Another thing you'll notice when you're doing this technique is how well packing tape cleans your gel press. It's kind of a miracle. So if you have some stuck on sort of grungy paint that you don't want to show up in a print on your gel press, clean it with packing tape. And you might get something really fun like this that you can use as a card element or in your art journal. So I'll be filling in this one little gap between those two bits of paint that I pulled off with the gilding flakes. This sort of reminds me of that, I think it's called kintsukuroi technique in Japan, where they repair broken ceramics with gold. And it's kind of symbolic about how sometimes those little broken spaces can be the prettiest. So I will just keep applying these. These are so light and fluffy. Whatever you do, do not sneeze around a container of gilding flakes or have a fan on, because you will be finding gilding flakes forever. But I love their lightness because it makes them really easy to apply. And my favorite ones are the copper ones. I got those at the Paper Source in Austin after one of my retreats. And you can use them with any kind of adhesive, but they're perfect for packing tape. They stick so well. You can also stick them directly onto alcohol ink pieces where the alcohol ink has pooled a bit and is sort of sticky. So I'll put this down on cardstock. Again, I'm just doing this so that I can trim these pieces and turn them into card elements. So I'll take the part of the tape that I want to be stuck down really well to the cardstock, but eventually I am going to have to apply some adhesive to the back of the parts that don't stick. So on the left where there's paint, that's not stuck down to the cardstock. It's only stuck down on the right. And so I'll have to go in and put some gel medium in there. I would recommend gloss gel medium for this particular technique as opposed to matte, just because you are working with that shiny surface of the packing tape, and it will look more like your original project if what's holding it together is gloss. So here you can really see the difference between just trying to pull a print off the gel press with pouring paint and using the gel press as you're pouring canvas. You can still get that same look that you get with the canvases, but you just have to have a little bit of patience and let it dry and pick it up with packing tape. So much fun. So here are all the projects that I made with this fun technique. And I do have a coupon code for ARTEZA that you can use on the paints and the wood slices over on my blog today. That is good until early July. So take a trip over there, and thanks so much for watching.